What's up, friends? Welcome into Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com with Dan Courtwright. I am Sean Kellerman. Boy, do we have a packed show for you today. It's a bye
Packed.
week, but that is not stopping us from bringing you the best coverage of all things KU and locally and some national flavor as well. I want to first shout out Miles Snare and everybody over at Crown Automotive. Appreciate their partnership and helping get this going. We are so stoked, Dan, KansasNation.com. Before we tell you what we're doing today, all the different shows that we're going to be promoting and really debuting here in the coming days. Earlier this week, Brandon McAnderson and Chris Harris had their first Legends of Kansas podcast. You can catch that on YouTube. Follow us on Kansas Nation, but some other shows as well.
Yeah, Haney and the Hawks. Going to be Brian Haney talking to some KU legends. It's going to be filmed here in this studio most times, I believe. They're working on it right now, but the first episode should be out at the new booth. It's going to be really, really cool. So, like I said, Brian Haney's going to have his own show. Greg Gurley, former KU basketball player, Furman against Furman.
Ah,
Just
yes.
the Paladins hate to see him coming. Also, color analyst for the KU Sports Radio Network from Learfield. He's also going to be doing a show with Mick Schaefer as well. So, really exciting stuff for that. Also, Jayhawker podcast with Nate Bukaty. So, a lot of really cool content, I guess, coming up here in the coming weeks. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, you're also going to hear from Pat Strothman down in Wichita as well. All sorts of coverage, like I said, for KU Athletics. KansasNation.com. Follow us on your socials at the Kansas Nation on Twitter, Kansas Nation on Instagram, and yeah, you can keep up with all of our clips, our full shows on Rock Chalk Sports as well. So appreciate that following. Hey, here in the opening segment, we don't have a game to preview. Well, at least regarding KU. We're going to talk Chiefs next segment. In the opening segment, though, I want to recap what happened last night in the frozen tundra. That was a really impressive performance. Thursday Night Football, Packers and the Washington football team. So we'll touch on that and kind of get a little bit of a power ranking, perhaps, on where the Packers stand. Of course, they're the only team that's played 2 games, but that was a whooping of a team that you said yesterday, Dan, should be in the NFC Championship game. So
Yeah,
I'll see if you're still feeling that way.
I mean, the Packers should be in the NFC
Well,
Championship game
yes,
too. I
I'm
mean,
talking about
they
the
look.
football team.
I
Yeah.
understand the Washington football team, but they're still a good team. I just felt a little, I don't know what's the word. I guess uninspired.
Offended, I think, because you're such a big Jaden Daniels guy.
I am a big
Offended is
Jaden
the word.
Daniels guy. He's still a really good quarterback. I mean, he still had really good. It's just I don't know. I like him a lot. I still think that he is going to finish top 3 in MVP voting. I'm planting my feet in the ground, saying that confidently that he still will. This is going to be the worst game of his season.
Hey, and he actually salvaged it all right. He had a
Yeah.
couple of touchdowns there late, one to Debo, one to Zach Ertz, but got to talk more on the Packers because they are looking really scary. Next segment, though, we're talking Chiefs Eagles. We sort of touched on it yesterday, just kind of previewing the Super Bowl rematch that's going down 3:25 at Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday, but we'll talk about that. And then at 4:40, Dan, a special KU football segment. Of course, we don't play this upcoming Saturday, but we're 3 games in a 12-game slate, and you thought, hey, let's do a little bit of a holistic overview.
Yeah, that's right. We're calling it our quarterly review because we're 3 games in. Obviously, they play 12 games guaranteed. Hopefully, that's more. Hopefully, it's somewhere around 16 games, but at least in terms of the regular season, it's 12. So we're doing a quarterly review, just kind of where the Jayhawks stand as of right now, what we think could be improved, what we think have maybe surprised us, different things like that. So just kind of a holistic view of where the Jayhawks are right now and kind of what trajectory they're on, whether it be this or whatever it may be. So just kind of looking at it holistically.
Yeah, so that'll be our outlook. If you missed yesterday's show, we did a outlook on KU's conference opponents. Of course, there are 9 of them. You're not going to play all 15 potential opponents. And, well, we definitely like how the schedule looks, at least in the months of September and October, and maybe even trickling into November 1st.
Right.
But after the November 1st game against Oklahoma State, 3 really tough games for Kansas to close out the season, which, interestingly enough, is how it was last year. Baylor wasn't the best team in the conference last year. That was KU's final game, but you still had to go out by the river and give it a shot at McLean Stadium. And at that point, KU just didn't play well after knocking off 3 straight top 25 teams.
Right. I mean, absolutely. I mean, here Dave Veranda was kind of on the hot seat at that point too, so he had a lot to play for as well as or a lot to coach for, I guess. And Sawyer Robinson had a lot to play for too. So obviously didn't end the way that we really wanted it to, and different things can happen throughout the season, like you said. I mean, KU had a very different start to last season than the start that we had this season, right? KU looks really good this season. Now, obviously, there's some things that we would like to change, especially in that Missouri game and in terms of tackling throughout the first 3 games. But again, we'll kind of get into that in the 440 segment, just about what needs to happen at this point.
Yeah, well, the Baylor loss, of course, last year denied Kansas a potential bowl game. They had knocked off BYU, Iowa State, and Colorado, all who were ranked in the top 25 before falling to Baylor. Of course, Tavita Ahafi Noah had that big drop, which didn't help. But yeah, it just wasn't Kansas' day. They ended up going 5-7, and again, who knows how the teams are going to look come November. Who knows how the standings are going to look come November? But certainly on paper, it looks like that's going to be the toughest stretch for Kansas at this point. 5 o'clock on a Friday.
Ding, 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 ding.
Sports stock market. Stocks up, stocks down on who in the world of sports. Dan Courtwright's got some great stuff for you to keep you abreast on that stuff. And then a couple special game picks segments. We're going to extend our game pick segment in honor of keeping a little bit of a closer eye on everything else going on since there's no KU game upcoming. We'll have a special NFL game pick segment. I know you've got some props that you absolutely love on Sunday. And then Big 12 top 25. Dan will give his thoughts on what's going to happen on that front. Last week was kind of a stinker, actually. You had Florida State, Ohio State, Tennessee, and Alabama all score at least 70 in their games.
I know.
And the other teams, the teams they faced, did not score 70.
No, it wasn't like a 2014 Big 12 shootout. It was very much lopsided.
I think East Tennessee scored 17, and that was the most of the 4 opponents of those teams that I mentioned.
Good for them.
But yeah, a brutal look. So hopefully some more entertaining games this weekend, especially as we have to kind of I don't know, sit and wait until next week to watch our Jayhawks. We'll talk Chiefs, Eagles next segment, but hey, Thursday Night Football, the Packers over the football team 27-18. Honestly, it really wasn't that close. Jaden Daniels would lead the football team to a couple touchdown scoring drives late. I mentioned the touchdown to Ertz. That made it 24-10. And then after a 56-yard field goal from Brandon McManus, former Bronco legend, who I guess still has it, they kind of put the game away. Daniels would then find Deebo Samuel on another touchdown scoring drive. A 2-point conversion to McCaffrey made it 27-18. And maybe it made some Packers -3 bettors a little bit weary when they got the ball back, but Packers ended up winning by 9. Your thoughts on this one as it relates to both teams?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the game, at least the final score is not indicative of the way that this game is played. I thought the Packers won this game throughout the entire thing, and Jaden Daniels did eventually start to pick it up. By the way, I stayed up and I watched the entire game. I'm a little tired today.
Stayed up. It was over at like 10:30.
I'm aware of this. Sean, do you know what time I woke up this morning?
What's that?
3:30 in the morning, because I had to take my girlfriend to the airport.
Oh, you got to. That's a privilege, Daniel.
I was honored to take my girlfriend to the airport at 3:30 in the morning. No, she's heading to Fargo, North Dakota.
Oh my God!
Yes, I heard it's
beautiful.
It's beautiful up there.
What's going on up there? A little bachelorette party?
No, she's got a friend up there who's like a travel nurse or something. But they're gonna cross over to Canada. They're gonna go to Minnesota, hit the Mall of America or something. I don't know what their whole plan. They're staying in a cabin somewhere in the woods in Fargo, North Dakota. Power to them. It's great.
I haven't run into that. What would I do in that situation? Because I've got a 2-year-old daughter at home. So, but I wouldn't, I'm not about to call an Uber if my wife was going to go to North Dakota and had a 5 a.m. flight.
Right.
I
guess you wake up your daughter?
I think you just I think she just drives and she pays for parking. I think you have to eat it. That's one of the few situations you got to eat the parking.
Well, I know, and that's the thing. Like it was very much implied that I had to. Like my girlfriend kept
by who?
By my girlfriend. Like she was like, "Oh, you don't have to, but it would be really nice if you did." And she's like, "Oh, I don't want to pay for parking, but you don't have to." Oh, I just don't like driving at night alone, but you don't have to. I'm like, all right, I understand where this is going.
It was the morning
to drive you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so then you went back, took a nap.
No.
So you got up at 3:30.
I've been awake this entire time.
So you got
I went to bed at like midnight.
Okay. This is rough. This is rough
Yeah, and I
for
woke up
you.
at 3:30 in the
When
morning
does she
and
get back?
huh?
When does she get back?
Monday sometime. I don't
Okay.
know. It's a little weekend
More
trip.
appropriate day
Yeah, it's
or
Monday
time of day.
after work, so I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I don't have to wake up at like 3:30 in the morning
Oh man.
to go
Wow,
pick
your
her up
weekend's gonna
too.
look
But
a little different.
yeah, so I'm a little.
But that's your dedication to
But
this show, man. You
I
stayed up to
powered
watch this
through. I know
game.
exactly. I powered through because even though the game was crappy, and even though the Packers just wiped the floor with the Commanders, and even though I had to wake up at 3:30 in the morning today, I still powered through because I had to talk about this in the open. So I'm glad I did because it was a lot of fun to see Micah Parsons out there.
I
God,
was gonna
what
say,
a
do you have anything tangible to say about this game?
I do.
Okay.
Yes. So first things first, I hit one of my two bets. Uh, Jordan Love over 240, easy money. He hit that in the third quarter. Unbelievable. He finished with 292, 19-31. It's really good. And I mean, I'm kind of hopping on your bandwagon right now, saying that Jordan Love might be a
I'm
top
telling
10.
you,
He's
man.
a top 10
He
quarterback.
absolutely is top
He
10, yeah.
looked like it for
He's
sure. And it's
thinking
not.
about being top 5.
But
I'm not kidding.
that's the thing. He went 19 of 31, and a lot of those incompletions were like bombs down the field. I mean, he was going for it. Shout out to Matt LaFleur and the Packers for still just trying to throw those bombs. It sucked. Jane Reed broke his collarbone
Is that what
on.
it was?
Yeah, well,
Well,
and
and Eckler has
I'm
a
in my medical
Achilles.
experience, which is none. I think he broke his collarbone, but it was on a touchdown that was called back for a holding call. So very unfortunate at that moment. I thought, okay, this momentum is going to shift towards the Commanders, and it just absolutely didn't. Right, the Commanders just were not able to do anything. And I hate that I keep on having to bring this back to KU Mizzou, but the Commanders just were not able to really establish a run whatsoever. Looking at they had three guys run the ball. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, Bill, Austin Eckler, and Jaden Daniels. Austin Eckler actually tore his Achilles
So I was
in
saying
this game.
a couple injuries. Reed's
Yeah.
going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, placed on IR. It says
And
shoulder injury. It could be collarbone.
yeah.
I'm not
And
positive.
Eckler, we're lucky if he plays again because I mean, let's
Yeah,
face it, he's a little
longer
bit
in the
older,
tooth.
right?
Yep.
It's not exactly ideal as a running back to have an Achilles injury this late in your career, but all three of those rushers had 17 yards each. It was Krosky Merritt had 17, Eckler had 17, Jane Daniels had 17. And looking at what Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt did week 1, I thought he looked exceptional, right? I thought that he 7th round draft pick, the kid is a monster, and everyone loved him in college, but just seemed to fall into the draft. Now all of a sudden he's the guy, and he had one of the better training camps out of anybody in the NFL, especially as a rookie, right? Coming in, and now Austin Alexander is going to be not here for the rest of the season, so it's going to be his opportunity to take the ball and run with it, and just they were not feeding him whatsoever, and they just could not establish a run game. I mean, he only had 4 carries, right? Austin Eckler only had 8 carries. They had 19 carries total. 7 of them were from Jaden Daniels. A couple of them were on scrambles. So you have to be able to establish a run, and I understand that Cliff Kingsbury, that's not the type of guy that he is. He's a gunslinger. He had Patrick Mahomes and, Kyler Murray. And, he likes to draw up all these different things. You have to be able to establish a run. And now I understand they have Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons on that front line. It's terrifying to run against the Packers, but you still have to be able to do that, or else they're just going to drop 6 guys and run a Tampa 2 or whatever, and just you're not going to be able to pass the ball. I mean, that's exactly what we saw.
Right now, it's looking to me, and again, we're 1 week plus a
Right.
game, and it's the NFL season. But if you look back at what the Eagles did, and I know they have a lot of pieces gone from last year, but their main pieces are still there in the playoffs last year, which is pretty much blowing everybody out, including the Packers. And look at how the Packers have looked the first 2 weeks against the Lions and against the football team. 2 good teams. Yeah, they're both at Lambeau Field. I mean, you got to think those are the top 2 teams in the NFC. Now, who knows? That could
Certainly.
change, but Micah Parsons brings this team to a whole different level. And you were talking about Jordan Love, and before we talk a little bit more on the Packers and some of the guys that did work for them, Terry McLaurin, the $30 million man, ended up getting 5 catches for 48 yards.
Yeah.
He was okay. He was a part of the comeback, if you will, even though this game was never really in question after the Packers got that 2-3 score lead. Want to shout out as well Dorrance Armstrong, former Jayhawk, walk, 6 tackles in this one, including a sack,
A lot of
TFL.
pressure too. Yeah.
Absolutely. He's had a great career. I mean, you look at the 2017 Kansas team. Armstrong was out there, the Baker Mayfield handshake game. He wasn't the one I think
Well, is he
that
a captain?
denied, but
Oh
he
man.
was out there as captain. Yeah,
Was that
but
Joe
that team
Deneen
was good. Joe
too?
Deneen was on that team,
Man, that had a good
and
defense.
they did. And
Was
honestly,
a was
ask
a
Kevin Flaherty. He was there at that game. Baker didn't exactly destroy us that game.
no.
He had some great plays. It's just that
Yeah.
KU team was
Was
not very good.
Ja'Cory Shepard on that team?
Ja'Cory Shepard. That
No,
seems
I think he was earlier.
late.
He was
Yeah,
earlier.
that
He was
seems
earlier.
late for
Yeah, that's
him.
right.
Jordan Love. Anyway, we were talking about that. I don't know if he's a top 5 quarterback at this front. Definitely top 10. 292, 2 touchdowns, like you mentioned. I want to bring up the fact that you lost your Jaden Daniels bet. You liked over 230. At no point was that even close. Josh Jacobs did rush for 84 yards and a touchdown. He is definitely the bell cow. But let's talk about Love because we've mentioned him before. Okay, top 5 quarterbacks in the league. You got Mahomes, you got Lamar, you got Josh Allen. Again, always referred to him by his full name, Josh Allen.
Yes,
Not
right,
many
right.
guys are like that.
Josh.
And you got Jalen Hurts, right? So is that the top tier? And then who's the second tier? Because Love has got to be in that second tier, if you ask me. Justin Herbert is thinking about it. Jaden Daniels, is he somebody who is in that second tier to this point? Then you have a lot of teams that have question marks, obviously. Like, what are, Trevor Lawrence, the ultimate question mark. Bryce Young, he plays on a bad team. This is his 3rd year. Is he going to do
He's fun
anything?
though. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Penix is a young quarterback. He's a second-year quarterback. I think he's 25. But who are some other guys that you think belong in that conversation? Because when you get to like the Geno Smith, that's more of a tier 3 type deal. But Jordan Love has proven, and again, shout out to the Packers for letting Rodgers go and letting Love cook. He's proven that, hey, that was worth it, the time that he spent under Rodgers, and he really is their answer.
That's an interesting question. So, I mean, looking at it, obviously, like you said, you have kind of the top tier, the Mahomes, the Allens, the Lamars, right? Those are the top 3. I'll throw Burrow in there. I mean, after that, who do you really have to say, right? I mean, you could make the case that Jordan Love could be that number 5 guy, right? I think Jared Goff is a good quarterback, but also I think he's more of a game manager than an actual hero ball kind of guy. I'm a big Stafford fan. I think Matthew Stafford is a fantastic quarterback.
I think kind of getting back to this, the 4 guys, I think we agree.
Yeah.
Hurts, Lamar, Mahomes, and
Oh, no, I'm not putting Jalen Hurts in there.
okay. I think that's ridiculous that you wouldn't.
You think he's a top 5 quarterback?
Yes, you don't?
No,
Did you not see what they just did
I did.
last year in the playoffs? That's you not thinking him top. I mean, what does he need to do? What does he need to do? I guess.
No, he just needs to be a better quarterback.
Oh,
I think that the reason that they won is not because Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. That's not the reason that they won a Super
so you
Bowl.
don't think he's a good quarterback?
I think he's a fine quarterback.
Okay, so you would put him below some of the other guys. You would put him
I put him
below.
below Justin Herbert.
Oh, okay.
At this point, I think I'd put him below Jordan Love.
Some of the guys.
I'd put him below
some of the
Jaden
guys
Daniels.
that you put. Some of the guys that you put him below Jaden Daniels.
I would
That's
put him
ridiculous.
below Jaden Daniels.
That is ridiculous. Goff and Stafford are guys that you mentioned that are way below him. Burrow would be a guy who I think would be. He's probably in the top 5 conversation. Again, I think those 4 are there, and then Burrow, and then you have guys like Love, Daniels. Point is, there are different tiers, and Jordan Love, from what we've seen these past couple weeks against good teams, again, we won't know until the end of the year, but he's proven that he is the answer. And you pair that with a bell cow running back, some playmakers on the outside, even though they're not going to have Jaden Reed for the first half of the season at least, and then an ultimate star defensively in Parsons and a solid secondary. Packers are going to be there. You disagree?
Maybe a little.
Okay.
Right. I mean, I don't know. The Packers are good. I'm still caught up on this Jalen Hurts thing. I cannot believe you think he's a top 5 guy.
That's really not that much of a hot take.
I feel like it is kind of a hot take. I don't know. What you were talking about the Packers though. About how do you think the Packers are going to be?
I do think the Packers are good.
Yeah,
yes.
they're going to be fantastic. No, I'm with you there. They have a really good front line, right? By the way, Lucas Van Ness is going to be unbelievable, right? That's a guy who we saw get a ton of pressure on Jaden Daniels too. So that's why Jaden Daniels didn't have. Oh my gosh, that's why Jaden Daniels didn't have that good of a game, is because he was under so much pressure the entire time, right? And obviously, you need to play well under pressure, and I think he played fine under pressure. He still had 200 yards. He still had a QBR of 85.4, which isn't great, but it's not terrible when you have Micah Parsons chasing you down every single play. So I like the Commanders. I think that Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback. All right. Last night, Jaden Daniels is not a better quarterback than Jordan Love. I think holistically, I think Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback than Jordan Love. I'm still going to plant my feet in the ground and say that this probably is an NFC championship preview, right? I mean, I can't think of anybody else in the NFC who I trust as much as these guys.
How about the Eagles?
All right, the Eagles. Yes, the Eagles. I do
Chiefs,
trust them.
Eagles, we're going to preview. By the way, if you want to ask Al overview, the single
Eagles
there's
lost
there-
10
there's
guys from their
there's
Super
no
Bowl
single
winning team
definitive,
last
but the
year.
most consistently ranked quarterbacks for the NFL season, top 5: Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow. How about
He's
that? And you
listening
you
to
think you,
AI.
you think it's the hottest take that I have? No, this is literally citing Fox
No,
Sports,
it's
ESPN. This is plus the eyeballs, the eyeball factor.
you have
I don't know
one
what
of the, you
Jalen
have a
Hurts needs
top
to
5
do.
running back of all time in your backfield. You have one of the best offensive lines in the
That's a
history of
hot take.
NFL.
That's a hot take.
Offensive lines?
Top 5 running back of all time. That's
Saquon
that's that's a
Barkley?
little early.
He's one of 8 people to ever rush for 2,000 yards in a season.
We are talking Chiefs Eagles after this. Make sure you're tuned in. Thanks for watching KansasNation.com.
This is Daniel Highshaw, and you're watching KansasNation.com.
Welcome back to Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com. All right, so we had a lively debate before, and I just want to point this out before we get into Chiefs Eagles. Is Dan, I think what you said, essentially talking about the top 5 running backs of all time,
Yeah.
is that anybody who played before the year 1990 just doesn't count. I mean, that's basically what you told me.
All right. Have you ever heard of hyperbole? No. I was talking about like the Jim Browns of the world, or the
Just
I'll
because
even
he
say,
played back then doesn't mean that it
no. What I'm
doesn't matter.
saying, yes, of course. O.J. Simpson had 2,000 yards in a 14-game season because they didn't pass the ball. Having 2,000 yards in 2025 is insane because everybody passes the ball. The West Coast offense lashed itself on to the NFL in the mid 1990s like a parasite, and it has not gone away.
It hasn't been nearly as bad though the past 5-7 years.
Also, you have a ball hog of a quarterback in Jalen Hurts. When anytime you need 2 yards, he takes it, and Saquon's up there shoving up on him.
Is that because he's a ball hog or because it works?
It's
Hey,
because it
we're
also
talking
works, but that's what I'm saying. The majority of the rushes, Jalen Hurts still gets them, and Saquon still had 2,000 yards.
Okay, so the best running back of all time, Saquon Barkley, according to Dan
No, it's the
Courtwright.
top 5.
Find us on Twitter at the Kansas Nation and let Dan know why he's woefully ill-informed on that front. Unfortunately, what we're gonna do now before
Sean
we
has yet
preview
to name 5 others that are better, by the way.
I named 10 guys when we were over break.
And you were wrong about most of them.
I was wrong about most of them. You're right. Yeah. Emmett Smith, Eric Dickerson, get out of here. All right. Let's talk Chiefs Eagles. Of course, we have to relive the game from February 9th. There was a quarterback for the Eagles. I just want to give you his stats real quick. 17 of 22, 221 yards and 2 touchdowns, plus 11 carries, 72 yards, and an additional touchdown. His name was Jalen Hurts. This was a game where the Chiefs, going in, of course, the whole big story, Dan, was all right, three-peat. Weren't we supposed to not say three-peat or something? We were going for 3 in a row. I don't remember.
Yeah,
But
I think three-peat was it was trademarked by the Chicago Bulls.
That's right. So we weren't allowed to say that, but essentially that's what we were going for. It was like, oh man, if we could do this and win our 4th Super Bowl. Well, it didn't go well, kind of like the Super Bowl against Touchdown Tom. Chiefs were down 24-0 at halftime, and it was just an ultimate thud. You look at the final numbers, and I'll shout out Xavier Worthy, who was a rookie, 8 catches, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns, but it just didn't feel like it, right? Because so many of this was in garbage time. At one point, this game was 40-6. The Chiefs would eventually lose by 18. Mahomes threw for 3 touchdowns, 257 yards. So it wasn't quite as brutal of a box score as we saw when the Chiefs lost to the Bucs in that blowout Super Bowl loss. But still disappointing. And the Eagles did this last year to everybody in the playoffs, and it was really impressive. You remember the football team at the end of the regular season went and beat Philadelphia, and then the Eagles got them back comfortably
Yes.
for the most part in the playoffs. But yeah, a chance for the Chiefs now to get them back here on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, look at this Eagles team, with a not a top 5 quarterback in the league, but a top 5 running back of all time, according to me, and not Sean
Saquon,
Kellerman.
Saquon, by the way, 25 carries, 57 yards in that game, 2.3 yards per tote.
Yeah, because the Chiefs were stacking the box, and that made Jalen Hurts able to actually throw the ball because he is an NFL quarterback. I'll give him that, right? He's able to throw the ball, and he has really good receivers in AJ Brown and Devontae. We're done talking about this. All right, Chiefs are stacking the box. That's why Saquon didn't have a good game. Anyway, back to the Eagles now. The Eagles have lost 10 guys off that Super Bowl winning team from last year, but they still have their key guys. AJ Brown virtually nowhere in that first game against the Cowboys on Thursday night. So that's a little interesting. You have to imagine that he's going to get more play in this game against the Chiefs, especially because I think that he matches up really well against the Chiefs secondary, right? I mean, obviously you have Trent McDuffie on the other side. You have Jalen Watson on the right side. You have Shamari Connor playing that kind of nickel position. But I do like the way that A.J. Brown stacks up against a lot of these guys, except for Trent McDuffie. So unless you have Trent McDuffie following him around, that could be an issue. And then all of a sudden you have Devontae Smith, who is one of the faster people in the NFL. He's being guarded by Jalen Watson. Now I have faith in Jalen Watson. I think he's a good cornerback, but it's still when you have two dangerous weapons like that, it can really hinder your defense. So I mean, just looking at the weapons that Philadelphia has makes you concerned. Dallas Goedert is questionable as of right now. So they have Grant Calcaterra behind him.
Former Oklahoma legend.
Yeah, so he might get some play. We don't know if Dallas Goedert's going to be playing. He's day to day as of right now. So that'll be interesting to see because we obviously know Dallas Goedert is a very good tight end. They have a lot of their guys back on the offensive line, right? They have Landon Dickerson, who's incredible. Jordan Mailata. Cam Jurgens is really good. Lane Johnson, obviously, has been a mainstay at that right tackle position for years. But looking on the defensive side of the ball, they have Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter in the inside, which, by the way, Jalen Carter spit on
Not
Dak
suspended.
Prescott. Spit on Dak Prescott after Dak Prescott spit on him.
No.
I will still maintain
After
that
Dak
position.
Prescott spit, Jalen Carter spit on Dak Prescott.
It was towards Jalen. Dak's towards Jalen Carter. Anyway, Jalen Carter, they decided to suspend him for a game, but they determined that the suspension was the game that he already was ejected from. So Jalen Carter will be playing in this game against the Chiefs, which scares me a little bit because you have to imagine Jalen Carter is going to be pretty upset about the fact that he had to miss week one.
We need to talk a little bit more about that. That doesn't make any sense to me. How you're ejected from a game and then essentially retroactively suspended from that game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if that's the case, like you make the case that, oh, well, Rashee Rice has already served his suspension when he tore his ACL last year, right? I mean, you could, in theory, make that case. That's essentially the same thing, but we're not going to. It's just, it is ridiculous. That's the fact.
I just don't understand how you can be ejected from a game and then also suspended from that same game.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. No, it absolutely doesn't make sense. Hey, we're going to suspend you, but you already served your suspension when we ejected you. So
hey, you know what? It's going to work out great for the Eagles against the Chiefs. And last I saw, Eagles are 1.5-point favorites. That's a crazy rarity. I believe that the Bills in the playoffs last year, depending on where you saw it, were 1.5-point favorites going to Arrowhead. So kind of a similar situation. But yeah, they're loaded, chock loaded with talent. My question is, and sticking with when the Eagles are on offense, Dan, you mentioned we were talking about Barkley. He only averaged 2.3 yards per carry in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. The Chiefs did stack the box against him, but they were hurt in other ways. The Eagles kind of coasted to 40 points here against a lot of the Chiefs players that you've mentioned. So what's going to be the answer to slowing that down? Because if the Eagles score 40, you're not going to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be up front, right? You have to get pressure on Jalen Hurts and make him throw under pressure while not allowing him to get out of the box. And I think that's, I mean, easy to say, right? Obviously, but also very hard to do, right? When you have a guy like Jalen Hurts who can do it on his legs, it's going to be very tough for that. So I think Chris Jones is going to have a big game, and I want to see George Karlaftis get a lot of pressure. And then obviously the defensive backs. Like I said, I like the way that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith match up against these DBs that the Chiefs have. So they really have to focus in on, okay, well, we got to stop these two guys. If Dallas Goedert is out, that's going to be important, right? Because then you don't have that tight end seam that they are always loving to hit Dallas Goedert on. So you have two really big weapons there for them, as well as look, I'm not out on Jahan Dotson too. I think he's a really solid wide
Yeah,
receiver
he's
as
a good
well.
deep threat. I mean, when they already have Devontae Smith, you got to worry about running.
Exactly. But then
Yeah.
also it's weird because like you saw what happened in the Super Bowl when the Chiefs were stacking the box against them and the wide receivers went crazy, right? So how do you find that balance? And obviously we have trust in Spags, right? We have trust that he's able to do this, but we saw it in the Super Bowl. He wasn't necessarily able to make those stops, right? He spent way too much time trying to focus in on the run that the wide receivers just went crazy on the Chiefs. So that is going to be a big thing of finding the balance of how do you stop Saquon and also stop their wide receivers. They have a very talented skill position players on both sides of the ball, but most notably on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, though, I think that there's a way the Chiefs can take advantage, and it's in their secondary, right? Quinyon Mitchell, if you watched him in that Thursday Night Football game against the Dallas Cowboys, I didn't think he played that good. I thought Quinyon Mitchell was one of the better cornerback prospects to come out of college from Toledo in a long time. And what we saw from him was not necessarily indicative of the way that he's able to play. So if he maintains that, then I don't know. But obviously I think he is a much better player than that. And then on the other side, you have a Dory Jackson, who I personally forgot that he was still in the NFL. I mean, he was, I believe he was a reserve on the 2016 Rio Olympic 4x1 team or that kind of thing. He's obviously an incredible athlete, but I did not think that he was that good in the NFL, and I didn't think he was really good against the Cowboys either. So it's going to be interesting to see for sure. So if Xavier Worthy is able to come back for this game, I'm expecting him to have a big one. Now, he was day to day. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say he was a participant yesterday in practice. Obviously, hurt his shoulder, but despite the reports that it was a dislocated right shoulder, there was no timetable. Kind of a surprise participant, though, being in practice. And while we know it was in garbage time that he put up those numbers in the Super Bowl, he still put up those numbers: 8 catches, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And that's what I wanted to do. It kind of flip the field over when the Chiefs are on offense. This goes back to what we were talking about with Kansas football and the fact that they couldn't get off the field defensively and couldn't maintain long drives offensively on Saturday is okay. How are the Eagles not going to score 40? Well, keep them on the sideline.
Yeah.
Right. So we talked about this yesterday when we did a light preview of this game. You had 5 carries from Kareem Hunt and 5 carries from Isaiah Pacheco against the Chargers. Those guys need to deliver. So you need to win the battle of the trenches, as is usually the case. You got to win the turnover battle, of course, but there needs to be some push from Creed and the guys up front to make sure that the Chiefs are able to move the sticks. We don't necessarily need the big pop plays from Pop and Ream, but you need to be able to sustain drives
You win the
and
time of possession.
and
It's
that
just
way
as
you're
big.
keeping the offense, which is kind of a strange spot to be, right? Because usually that's what people are saying against the Chiefs is you got to keep Mahomes on the sideline.
Right.
But there are 5 other teams maybe in the league where the same can be true regarding the Chiefs offense. Maybe a little bit of time management, a little bit of ball control, and time will tell. But yeah, there was no run game in the Super Bowl either. Just want to point that out as well. Mahomes, the leading rusher by far, 4 carries, 25 yards. You got 3 for 9 out of Kareem Hunt, 1 for 8, Samaje Perine, and Pop had 3 carries for 7 yards. So you didn't get a lot on that front, but that's good news regarding Worthy. Kelsey had a touchdown and a couple catches last week. Not a monster game by any stretch, but you're going to need to be vintage Chiefs because you're going to have to score even if you are able to win the ball control game.
So I have a question for you because I think I have my answer. Do you think that Travis Kelce is going to have a better season or a worse season than he did last year? Because you look at what he did last year. Yeah, I mean, he was still in the 800s, right? But it was the worst statistical year that he has ever had. And we saw some flashes, right, in that first game against the Chargers. Obviously, he had a touchdown, had some catches. But what do you think about that? Do you think that his age is starting to show? We sort of start creeping in, but more often than not, with a lot of guys in the NFL, we see it hit them like a brick wall where all of a sudden, bam, they're old and they just can't do anything. Now, again, like I said, we saw Travis Kelce make some plays against the Chargers, but what's your confidence level in Travis Kelce as of right now? Because, like you said, they kind of have to be vintage Chiefs.
800 plus yards, like you said, and only 3 touchdowns last year. I think I said a couple weeks ago before the season started that I am expecting Kelce to have a big year. I don't think it's going to be a career year, like you said, definitely getting longer in the tooth, that sort of thing. But he's still going to have to be impactful. So much of that is going to depend on the production of the other pass catchers
Right.
for the Chiefs. Hopefully you have Worthy. Hollywood Brown, I don't know if you saw, he was listed on the injury report, but it didn't seem to affect his availability in practice. An ankle injury, but he did practice in full on Wednesday. He was the best pass catcher for the Chiefs in Brazil with 10 catches for 99 yards. Yeah, it's just going to be one of those things where everybody's going to have to deliver. I do like our special teams more than Philadelphia. Generally, who knows? You know that Nick Sirianni likes to go for 2 a lot, but a long
Very
field
true.
goal, you'd rather have Harrison Butker than Jake Elliott. So if it comes down to that, you like our guys on that front. But yeah, needless to say, it should be a more competitive game than we saw in February, and hopefully the Chiefs can find a way to get it done. Again, 3:25 on Sunday, Chiefs Eagles at Arrowhead. You don't want to lose this one because then you're staring at 0-2, and we know that the Chiefs don't exactly have a cupcake schedule this season. We're talking Kansas football. Next segment, a quarterly review with Dan Courtwright. After this, thanks for watching on KansasNation.com.
Hey, this is Cole Ballard, and you're watching KansasNation.com.
Dan Courtwright back here, KansasNation.com. Thanks for watching Rock Chalk Sports. And check us out on YouTube as well. We upload all of our shows on YouTube. We have a technical expert that does that for us. Also have some clips as well. So make sure that you check us out there. And Legends of Kansas podcast is officially up. Brandon McAnderson, and Chris Harris Jr. launched
Why
their
doesn't Chris
first
Harris
show.
Jr. get a cool voice?
I don't know. I'm not used to the
Chris Harris.
I'm not used to the PA of Brandon McAnderson. We'll go with that. But yeah, Legends of Kansas podcast. Check that out. All things KU football. We hope that you're not tired of hearing or looking at us. But if so, you have other options on KansasNation.com. We do have our daily show here, 4 to 6.
I would say, yeah, and we're going to be, if you really don't like looking at us, but you like hearing our voices for some reason, we're going to be putting this on all the audio platforms very soon. We're still working this out. So, but watch us on YouTube. Obviously, that's where we put all of our stuff up, and we put a lot of production value into this. But if you're obviously driving, I understand that, or you just, you put in your earbuds while you're, ignoring your boss at work or whatever you may be doing. We're going to be putting it on the audio podcast platforms very soon on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we're going to do a quarterly review of Kansas football. Yeah, we don't get to talk about a game, but we will in the coming weeks. And that's really exciting, actually. We have 2 home games and then 2 road games before our next bye week. And our next bye week will be in advance of the K-State game, which, again, is one of the things that I loved when the schedule came out because Coach Leipold is so good after bye weeks. And you have an advantage on paper this upcoming week as well because Pitt plays tomorrow. They take on West Virginia West Virginia plays. They take on Pitt in the backyard brawl. And WVU, of course, is going to be without their maybe best offensive player and Jaheim White for the rest of the season. So there's that factor as well. But KU having the extra week of preparation it certainly is not nothing. That being said, this week, and Dan, obviously you played college football at Emporia. This week, I would imagine, is going to be a lot more about Kansas than it is about WVU. You're going to focus on West Virginia more next week, but this is an opportunity for some of the guys 2, 3, 4 deep in the depth chart to get a little bit of run, rest up, get healthy for some of the starters, and focus on what Kansas needs to do. Because I think for the media, a lot of the times we're like, what do you need to do to be West Virginia? It's like, we got to focus on us, and a bye week's a great opportunity to do that.
100%. And the way that they probably went about this week was, hey, we need to fix the things that went wrong in the Mizzou game, right? And they could really focus in on that without having to game prep for West Virginia, which I think is a huge thing, right? They spent all week fixing the mistakes that they saw. Now, West Virginia week starts tomorrow. It starts on Saturday because this is going to be a very important game. Kansas doesn't play you know what those coaches are going to be doing? They're going to be watching that Pitt West Virginia game because they're going to know what kind of offense they have to run without Jaheim White, without Bray, their star wide receiver, right? They're going to have to figure out what they're going to be doing about their quarterback situation. And this is a big game for them because this is their rivalry game. So they're probably going to be pulling out some trickery as well. They're going to be opening up the playbook a little bit more because they want to beat Pitt. So this is going to be very, very important for these coaches in this team to watch this Pitt West Virginia game. And it's huge because they don't have another team to really focus on. So this gives them essentially a whole extra week to be like, okay, well, now we fixed all of our problems, right? We fixed the tackling issues. We fixed the run game issues in the week after the Missouri game. Now we get to watch Pitt and West Virginia, and now we get another week to prep for West Virginia of what we just saw from them in their rivalry game.
Yeah, the backyard brawl, I had to do some light research on it. Started in 1895. Not quite the hatred rivalry of the border war. This is more so because of proximity and
Right.
the fact that Morgantown's about 70 miles south of Pittsburgh, competing for recruits. A little bit different, maybe more similar to the Dillon Sunflower Showdown, I
Yeah.
would say, because
I mean, it's still kind of a border war, right?
yeah, I guess so. They're in
Was
different
West
states.
Virginia part of the South? They feel like they would be part of the South.
What's that supposed to mean?
I don't know.
All right. Well, hey, before we talk West Virginia next week, we got to talk about this Kansas team. Offense, defense, special teams. We want to get into that right now. Where do you want to start, Dan? And we can kind of break things down. If you want to go game by game, we can, but certainly want to highlight where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, we can start with the offense, right, and just kind of go through positions. I think the way that you do the quarterly review is kind of look at the goals of what you saw in the preseason and what you've seen as of right now. And I think the right place to start is probably the quarterback position with Jalen Daniels, right? And you can even look back to last year and Jalen Daniels and look at that quarterly review, probably the worst quarterly review of a KU football quarterback maybe in history. I mean, I don't know. I guess you could probably look at Todd Reesing in the 09 year, at that backstretch and say, man, KU really lost a lot of those games really close. They obviously started off the season really.
I just have to make sure.
08, or sorry, 08.
Right, but I got to make sure I understand what you said. Did you say that was one of the worst seasons from a KU quarterback in history?
No. I'm sorry. I obviously misspoke. What I meant was in terms of expectation, right? Because the 08 season for Kansas football,
disappointing.
disappointing.
JD would be the first to tell you that. Yeah,
very disappointing. The 08 season was very disappointing for Kansas because they came in really highly ranked and then obviously lost, what was it, 5 games in a row at the end of the season, I believe.
7 games in a row.
7 games in a row.
Started 5-0, yeah.
That's right. It was 7 games in a row. So a very, very tough, outlook. It was a very disappointing season. And that I believe to me would be one of the more disappointing ones in terms of expectations to reality and where it actually went. And last year, same thing with JD, right? Started off really shaky, had 8 interceptions in those first 4 games. We had a lot of expectations for JD, obviously coming off that bowl loss to Arkansas the bowl win, the guaranteed rate bowl. You had JD coming back. You felt really good about it. You had the 3-headed monster in Skinner, Graham, and Arnold coming back. You had Devin Neal coming back. Everything was just a perfect concoction of this is going to be a damn good football team. And they wound up not being good in the open of that first essentially quarter of play. And looking at it now, right, these first 3 games, very different from last year. Jalen Daniels exceeded expectations in the Fresno State game, right? He looks really good in the Fresno State game. He wasn't making those poor decisions, trying to play hero ball, right? It's Wagner, but still he looked really good in that game as well, especially in that open, right? He had 1 interception, and it was a hell of a play by the Wagner defender. Other than that, nothing too crazy. And then in the Mizzou game, just didn't necessarily get the help that he really needed, both from his backfield, also from his wide receivers as well. But I still think that Jalen Daniels really tried to carry that team to somewhat of a victory, right? If you had any other quarterback in there, this isn't a slight to any other quarterback, but if you had any other quarterback in there, that game would not have been as close as if you did have JD in there. So I think JD right now, in terms of quarterly reviews, has exceeded those expectations, even though we did lose to Missouri.
It would be hard for me to give JD anything lower than an A minus if we're putting this on a scale. Yeah, he's got the 2 interceptions. One, you hate the fact that it's out of the box score. It was, but he was trying to throw it away at the end of the game against
Oh yeah, no, that
Mizzou.
was and again, like the interceptions, they weren't forced balls; they were just incredible plays by the defense.
Yeah, literally both of them. Yeah, but 9 touchdowns for JD, 679 yards passing. And again, as we saw, particularly against KU's toughest opponent to this point in Mizzou, not a lot of help. Drop passes as well. That doesn't help your stats, and certainly didn't get a lot from the run game as well. JD is the second leading rusher on this Kansas team. He's got 90 rush yards on 21 attempts with a touchdown. We haven't seen as much of the option quite yet. I'd imagine as the season goes on, we'll see that a little bit more. But KU needs more from Daniel Hishaw and Leshawn Williams. We saw that, of course, against Mizzou. Leshawn didn't play against Wagner, so he's only played 2 games. But for Hishaw, 33 carries, 169 yards. That's 5.1 yards per carry and a touchdown. Williams, 9 for 52, 5.8 yards per carry in a limited time, also with 1 touchdown. And we got to see a little bit of Thompson, a little bit of Stewart, who scored against Wagner as well. But I think kind of going back to what we're talking about with the running game, KU has to get more production from them, not just from a statistical standpoint, but to help out their quarterback and to help out their defense. And then at the wide receiver position, kind of interesting so far. Dan, you look, and KU's top receiver is Manny Henderson, but he had 100+ yards and 2 touchdowns against Wagner, 130 yards receiving. He's at 183 overall with those 2 touchdowns. Cam Pickett had 2 touchdowns against Fresno State, 1 more against Wagner. He's got 124 yards on 10 catches. Levi Wentz also over 107 catches for 103. And then Deshaun Hanukkah, he's got 3 total touchdowns, 1 against Wagner, and then he had 2 in the border war. So nice seeing that. Those are guys that we expected production from a pass catcher standpoint, but you want to see those numbers even more inflated moving forward. And it's all about the chemistry, right? I still think the chemistry is going to be there with Cam Pickett. We saw it early. Pickett only played 15 snaps against Fresno State or against Mizzou rather. So need to make sure that he's healthy. And then Henderson, the confidence is going to come. He just has not seen that much game action. He is still KU's best deep threat. He's still the guy who could take the top off the defense. You just got to see it kind of mesh together. And right now we're still kind of as expected with so many new guys trying to get all the pieces to fit together.
Yeah, I think, and Henry Greenstein actually made a great point.
Who does he work?
KUSports.com and the Lawrence Journal World
Yeah.
California Kid, Henry Greenstein, made a great point on Wednesday about how Emmanuel Henderson, yes, he is chock full of talent. Yes, he came from Alabama, but he hasn't been put into a situation where he had to be clutch. And it's just a very tough situation to kind of be thrown into where, basically you're getting minimal playing time at a powerhouse like Alabama. All of a sudden you come to KU and you're expected to be the #1 guy. It's such a big jump in terms of responsibility. And I think Emmanuel Henderson is up to the task, but just wasn't able to capitalize at the end of that Mizzou game. And like you said, he has 183 yards, 130 of them came in that Wagner game. So the stats could be a little bit inflated. But looking through the stats in terms of the wide receivers, I still think Cam Pickett is going to be that guy. Obviously, he's dealing with some injuries right now, a little dinged up here and there, only played in 1 snap, I believe, in that Mizzou game. That's the guy that you and I both have kind of agreed that, hey, that's going to be the reception guy. That's going to be the guy who finds those soft spots in the zones, gets those 40-yard receptions when you really need them the most. Whenever he is going to be back to 100%, that's when we're really going to see Cam Pickett really thrive. He's gotten into the end zone a few times, twice out of the backfield. So we're going to be using him kind of as a gadget guy too, which is going to be a lot of fun, but he needs to maintain his health, right? Bryson Canty, kind of the same thing.
The other guy I wanted
right?
to mention, if he can
Yeah.
get healthy, he could be a huge piece to this offense.
Absolutely. He has 2 receptions for 42 yards. I mean, he's averaging 21 yards a catch. That's unbelievable stuff. So you know that he can beat them deep, but also Bryson Canty, we watched it in his film. He can also be that kind of gadget guy too. He's got the correct build for it. He looks really big. I mean, his arms look huge. I really like the way that Bryson Canty is built, right? So I'm excited to see what he can do, but just kind of got to deal through that injury bug. So the wide receiver group as of right now, in terms of a quarterly review grade, I'm going to give them probably a B- at this point. I'm not going to go into the C's because our expectations, we didn't know what to expect, right? This is kind of a ragtag group of guys, or a lot of guys who transferred in from either low-level FBS or FCS guys, or Emmanuel Henderson, a guy who came from Alabama but didn't get a whole hell of a lot of playing time, right? So we didn't know what to expect out of these guys at the power 4 level, especially with guys like Levi Wentz, like Bryson Canty, like Cam Pickett. Those guys played at lower levels of college football, and we've seen flashes, right? But they just got to battle through that injury bug. I think Levi Wentz is going to be a big time deep threat as well. I mean, we saw it quite a few times. We saw it in the Mizzou game. He had a really long catch that he was able to make against those Missouri defenders. So I'm excited to see what Levi Wentz is going to be able to do. I think that they still have room for improvement.
Yeah, I mean, you can get excited about Levi Wentz pretty easily watching that. I mean, that's
Yes.
that's your
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
It kind of reminds you of Lawrence Arnold having that big body, being able to go up and get the ball at its peak. That's important for sure. And then Henderson's got the speed and a little bit of size as well. Pickett, again, probably more of a possession guy. That doesn't mean he's not going to continue to score, but the pieces are there. Levi Wentz, I think, has a real chance to be a top tier receiver in the conference, as does Henderson, if they're able to put everything together. And then Bryson Canty, yeah, like you said, we're very high on. It would be fair to say, Dan, that the offensive line did not have their best performance of the 3 games against Mizzou. That's not surprising. Mizzou has a lot of talent. They spent a lot of money on guys up front. Offensive line has still been solid. We know that it's going to probably continue to be rotational at the right tackle and left guard positions, but that's obviously going to be an area where Kansas needs to make sure that they are top tier in the Big 12, even if Mizzou's front line, front 7, whatever, ends up being the best that Kansas will face all year. And hopefully that's the case because we're done playing with them. Still going to need to have those guys up front.
Yeah, I think that looking at it, they're probably the worst graded in terms of the offense, just because of the fact that they had a bad game against Mizzou. And like you said, you certainly hope that that's going to be the best defensive line that they face, and it more than likely is going to be, right? But you have Bryce Foster, who's a preseason All Big 12 caliber player, who was a all freshman SEC in his time at Texas A&M. And looking at Bryce Foster's what he did against Mizzou didn't necessarily impress me a whole hell of a lot, right? I mean, he was letting up a lot of pressure. And the guys on the inside, too, Kobe Baines, who did make a really good play recovering that fumble in the end zone, obviously resulting in a safety, which shouldn't have been a safety because it was an illegally batted ball, which I will still maintain to this day that should not have happened. Kobe Baines was giving up a lot of pressure as well. You saw the guys on the inside, Amir Herring and Tavake Tuikulabatu, which there was a lot of questions revolving around them in terms of, hey, who's going to be the number 1 guy? They still were rotating, right? Nolan Gorsica and Enrique Cruz still rotating on that other side. Calvin Clemens, I thought, looked good, but in terms of the mainstays, right, with Bryce Foster and Kobe Baines and Calvin Clemens, I wasn't thoroughly impressed by what they did against Mizzou. Now, again, it's such a apples to oranges type of deal because you look at what they did against Wagner, they looked good. Well, it's Wagner. You look at what they did against Missouri, it was bad. Well, it's Missouri, right? That's an SEC defensive line. 2 very different defensive lines. I liked what I saw in the Fresno State game. So as of right now, they're probably the worst graded. I'll give them a C+ right now in terms of the quarter. But you have West Virginia coming up. I like that matchup. And then you got Cincinnati after that. I like the matchup as well, but they also have Dante Corleone, who is a very, very solid off defender. So it's that one's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully they can get those question marks kind of figured out on the offensive line.
Quarterly review. Let's flip the field over to defense, and let's start with Leroy Harris III. 3.5 sacks through 3 games. I mean, this, for lack of a better way of putting it, Dan, when it occurred in the offseason, and this is not to be disrespectful, but it was almost like a small footnote that Leroy
Yes.
Harris III was coming
Right.
over from UT
I think we
Chattanooga.
maybe mentioned his name once, like when he
we mentioned,
came over,
yeah,
and
we
we're like, oh,
mentioned
cool.
his name,
More
and
depth.
then you see this guy, and he's put on weight, and he is 6'7" according to some outlets, and he's just a monster out there.
Yes.
3.5 sacks, like I said, a couple sacks for DJ Withers as well. So we can talk about the entire front 4, which is really 8 to 10 of KU's defensive front. But Leroy Harris has impressed. And certainly Keenan Caldwell has had his moments as well. I mentioned Withers, a couple sacks. So defensively, we figured the front 4 was going to be a strength for Kansas, and so far it has been a strength. I don't know that we've seen a dominant performance yet from them, but we've seen a lot of good things.
Yeah, the most dominant one I would say is probably Leroy Harris, who has been the biggest surprise out of anybody, right, on this Kansas defense. I like the fact that Leroy Harris is getting in there and making the most out of his opportunity. The guys up front have been doing a good job of being disruptive in the pass game, but letting up 2 100+ yard rushers against Missouri, that is a big issue, right? I'm a big fan of DJ Withers and Tommy Dunn and Keaton Caldwell. Those guys, they've been getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They need to do a better job of stopping the run. And two guys who we were really high on who haven't had their names called a lot is Justice Finkley and Dean Miller. You want to see those guys being the leaders, right? Both of them are seniors. Both of them have to leave it out there on the field. I don't know if Justice Finkley has a tackle for a loss yet on the season, right? So it is something that you want to see your leaders be able to take that step up. Now, again, Leroy Harris is taking that step up kind of out of nowhere, right? And you love the fact that Leroy Harris is doing that, but we want to see more of Dean Miller and Justice Finkley be able to get pressure on these quarterbacks, especially in the Big 12. They did a good job of being able to contain Bo Prabula and not let him run around. But again, the defensive line letting up 100-yard rushers against Kansas, that is not what you want to see whatsoever. So props to Leroy Harris. I think Alex Bray has shown some flashes. We haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of him just because Leroy Harris has been getting most of those snaps, right? In terms of the depth that we have and the rotation that doesn't happen, you want to see more of Alex Bray in theory, but also that in theory takes some of those guys out. You can only have two pass rushers on the field at the same time. So I like having Alex Bray in the back pocket. And if Justice Finkley or Dean Miller doesn't get as much productivity in the foreseeable future, maybe we might see more Alex Bray. I hope that's not the case. I hope Dean Miller and Justice Finkley make an impact for the foreseeable future. But as of right now, I've been a little bit disappointed in the two mainstays and very impressed by Leroy Harris up front.
Well, we should say this about Justice Finkley. Maybe we haven't heard his name too often, but according to PFSN, the highest graded edge, he was number 1.
Okay.
Leroy Harris was number 2 in the Big 12. So that was a
That's
plus
awesome.
for sure. So shout out there to one half of the law firm, Justice Finkley. And yeah, we're going to hear more from him. And certainly, like I said, this is an area where Kansas expected to be very strong, and so far they have been. And now Big 12 play will be another great opportunity. And let's talk about linebackers, right? This is an area where Kansas struggled for 10 to 12 years before Coach Leipold got here, and now you've got Trey Lathan coming in getting 13 tackles against Mizzou. Bengali Kamara wasn't on the depth chart early last week. He ends up playing, having 9 tackles, and really being a force. We have not seen Joseph Jr. We've seen a little bit of Logan Brantley, and Jason Gilliam's been banged up as well. But particularly Lathan and Kamara, Bengali Kamara, that is, we're very high on, and they've been impressive thus far. They're going to make a name for themselves in the Big 12.
By the way, I'm not going to have any Joe Deneen or Ben Heaney erasure on this show. Okay, you said that those are the only two guys, though. Really, I mean, you said the linebacker position has been a struggle for Kansas.
That's fair.
So there's two guys.
I
who
forgot about
stick
the law
out
firm. You're right.
The law firm of Heaney and Deneen, or Deneen and Heaney.
Nah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Doesn't work
I'm
as well.
crazy about that law firm name. You know what? I wouldn't trust those guys to be a law firm. I trust them to be linebackers, though. This has been the biggest surprise to me, just because of the fact that there were a lot of question marks, probably the most amount of question marks, right? You lost your two biggest guys in J.B. Brown and Cornell Wheeler, right? You still had Jason Gilliam, who got a little bit of play, but was also dinged up last year. Logan Brantley was a guy who we talked a lot about, but still didn't get a whole hell of a lot of play last year. So you had to bring in new guys. You had to bring in Bengali Kamara, who has a lot of experience at the Power 4 level, and Trey Lathan, who also has a lot of experience at the Power 4 level, right? You felt confident about those guys coming in, but you didn't know how they're going to mesh, especially in this new defense. We had no idea what the defense was going to look like. I've actually really been impressed of DK McDonald's defense and all of the different things that he has been doing. I really like it. Trey Lathan has been incredible, right? He's been the surprise to me. I thought Bengali Kamara was going to be the guy. I really thought that, okay, now he's going to, go out there. He's going to be the stud. He's the new Joe Deneen. He's the new Ben Heaney kind of guy. Trey Lathan has really been able to step up and take over
they've both
that
been
linebacker
great.
room. Bengali Kamara also. I'm not saying that doesn't mean Bengali Kamara has had a bad season. He's had an exceptional season, and power to him for having a non-contact injury the Thursday, or I believe it was maybe the Wednesday before, and didn't play against Wagner. Then all of a sudden coming back and saying, "Hey, coach, I want to play." He told Chris Simpson, "I want to play against Mizzou," which to me shows that's leadership, right? That's a guy who understands that, hey, if I ever want to, if I want to A, win games, and B, get to the next level, I have to play in as many games as I possibly can. And I have to put it out there, all out there on the line. And he played exceptionally well against Missouri. So I was a big fan of that. So those two guys alone bring this grade up. They might be the highest graded as of right now, but still, you're that second line of defense. You still need to stop the run game, and I'm not
And
gonna
yeah,
I'm
and
not gonna
that's
forget about
right. And
those
it's
two
so
100-yard
tough
rushers
because
that Mizzou had.
asking them to be out there for so long. Again, we don't know. We're not going to have a full opinion on this until we get a big enough sample size. But yeah, I
Right.
mean, I've mentioned the tackles numbers over and over. 107 for
A
KU.
lot,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's
And
some special teams on there.
obviously, it's time of possession
I
too.
get it,
That's a
yeah,
big
and
part of
there's
it.
two sides to every coin. The guys need to step up, get a stop on the money downs, and they didn't. Mizzou made every play on 3rd and 4th down, and they gotta answer the call on that front. But certainly we're proud of how they competed, and looking forward to the linebackers continuing to improve. But yeah, they, like the defensive front, I think have been very solid this so far this season. And then we'll talk about the secondary as well. Again, a few guys banged up, as is always going to be the case, but you have 2 second-year players, a sophomore and Jalen Todd, a redshirt freshman in Austin Alexander. He had the scoop and score against Mizzou last week. And then you have some other guys as well. Lyric Rawls has had a little bit of up and down so far season through 3 games, but your thoughts on the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you like the law firm of Alexander and Todd, right? I mean, you feel good about that. Austin Alexander had the big scoop and score against Mizzou. That was really great to see. I thought Jalen Todd has been excellent in coverage. In terms of the safeties, I've really liked what I've seen out of Lyric Rawls. He has been very impressive because of the fact that he kind of battled through some adversity. He missed a lot of tackles against Fresno State and still was able to come up with one of the best interceptions that I've seen in recent history in a Kansas uniform, right? And then all of a sudden that kind of flipped a switch in him, and he absolutely came back and has been a rock star back there. I've loved what I've seen out of DJ Graham as well. I know there was some injury talks about him, and he was a little bit dinged up too. I've really liked him in coverage as well. So the secondary to me has really been impressive because of the fact that, again, you're looking at a whole new look, right? You're looking at not just a new coordinator with DK McDonald. DK McDonald actually worked with these guys before because
Right.
he was the secondary coach. But also the fact that you lost 2 All-American corners, and you lost OJ Burroughs and Marvin Grant, 2 guys who were Marvin Grant, talk about a guy who was able to get it done in the run fit, and OJ Burroughs really good in coverage. Those are big shoes to fill at all 4 of those spots. And I think that they've done a very good job in doing that. And also, look, here's the thing. A guy that we haven't been talking a lot about just because there's been so many different guys is Devin Dye. I think that he has been really good whenever he has been out there. He has an interception on the year. Also, was able to pick off EJ Warner. I would argue that he was the best in the secondary, at least in that Fresno State game. So you have the depth there, sneaky depth of guys that we didn't really expect a whole lot out of, and they've really been a surprise.
Well, and we should shout out as well Mason Ellis.
And Mason Ellis
He
too.
had
Oh,
a
absolutely.
great game against Mizzou. Almost had that return for 2 points, but forced the fumble that Alexander picked up and scored. So that's the outlook on the secondary. We want to make sure we get to special teams as well. We've seen Finn Lappin, we've seen Graydon Addison punting. Money Marjan has been that. He's hit his field goals, he's hit his PATs, and it really seems like he's going to be the best kicker that Kansas has had in a while. Hopefully those guys stay healthy as well. Lappin, I really like what I've seen. Last year, you had Damon Graves, and he was not exceptional, I think would be fair to say. Now he's in Boulder, different
We've upgraded
Australian
Aussies
style.
for sure.
We definitely have done that, upgraded a punter and a kicker. But your thoughts on the special teams, and also you've got a new returner in Tate Nagy, and he's been very daring but very good. And then haven't seen big games yet out of the kick return, but an opportunity there too.
Yeah, kick return's always going to be weird, right? I mean, obviously they're kicking it out of the back of the end
Yeah.
zone every single time, so we haven't seen any of them break out quite yet. Tate Nagy, man, that guy's cocky in a good way, I think, right? I mean, sometimes you see cocky players, and you go, oh man, but Tate Nagy, he is not afraid to return the ball. As a true freshman coming in, being that laterally quick is just something you absolutely love to see. And we even saw a little bit of him playing wide receiver against Wagner, but I think he really is exceptional in that return game. Finn Lappin, I mean, when you look at him versus Graydon Addison, I mean, you even look at him versus Damon Graves, there's a 10, 15-yard difference between those guys, right? So you love to see Finn Lappin out there. He's obviously the best player that you never want to see. We have seen a little bit of him. So it's been good because I think getting the other team into bad field position has been a really big strong suit of Finn Lappin's. And then, like you said, Money Marjan, man, he hasn't missed a kick all year. He seems cool, calm, and collected out there, kicking the balls out of the back of the end zone on kickoffs. He has just been exceptional, and I think he's going to continue to be exceptional all year long. Special teams is such a big part of winning football games, and I think that Kansas is really in a good spot with Coach O at the helm, and then those specialists just being rock solid at their jobs.
Yeah, we're going to look at special teams with a closer eye before the K-State game, just because that is where Bill Snyder really hung his hat, and that really burned KU for 14 years. And then, unfortunately, we knew that was the case before the game 2 years ago, and we knew that was the case before the game last year, but it still burned KU in both of those. You had the Trevor Wilson muff punt at midfield, and then you had the Jameel Croft Jr. stepping out of bounds at the 2-yard line after the kickoff that resulted in 9 points for the Cats. So special teams against K-State, that's going to be probably the number one game to look at it, but it's going to be very important on that front. To just go off what you said about Lappin, 46-plus yards on average last year at McNeese in 61 punts. So very impressive. And we know what Marjans did, only missed 1 field goal last year. So excited about those guys as well. That's our overarching look at Kansas football, offense, defense, and special teams as we head into week number 1 and week number 1 of conference play, I should say. It'll be week 4 and game 4, which should be good on our brains. We should catch up in week 4 when KU takes on West Virginia. That's going to be 5 o'clock at the booth. Crimson and Blue Show on the Jayhawk Sports Network from Learfield will be at 3:30. And of course, next week on Kansas Nation here, Rock Chalk Sports, we are going to break down those Mountaineers after we watch them in the backyard brawl against Pitt tomorrow. Thanks for watching. KansasNation.com. We'll be back right after this.
This is Dale Highshaw, and you're watching KansasNation.com.
Welcome back to Rock Chalk Sports on KansasNation.com. Next week is game week again, as we're taking this week off on that front. First of 3 bye weeks for Jayhawk football, but I believe we will have Kevin Flaherty on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. He comes to us from the Kansas City Sports Network.
That is right. He will be joining us on Monday. Hopefully Matt Tate will be able to join us on Tuesday, so we're kind of getting back into a regular schedule with a lot of our guests.
Yes, I've forgotten what Matt Tate's voice sounds like, but I would love to have his insight. So hopefully we can get him on. Little bit of a scheduling issues here and there, but we'll get Matt Tate on here eventually. Generally joins us on Tuesdays, and of course Greeny will have on Wednesday. Thursday will be Brian Haney, the voice of the Kansas Jayhawks, and at some point we're going to catch up with David Lesky as well to talk about the Royals. The Royals really, if you don't mind, starting off our sports stock market. Stock is down on late game leads. Also, as it has been all season, stock is down on offense. The Royals, 3 batters into this game last night, Daniel, led 2-0, and they lost to Cleveland 3-2.
Of course they did.
Vinny Pasquantino, a 2-run homer, his 30th home run of the season, which is the 3rd most for a Royals player by a lefty ever. Didn't matter. The Royals just did not score after that, and took a 2-1 lead into the 8th as the guys grinded. And Stephen Kolek, actually, who came over from San Diego, had a solid outing. But then John Schreiber came in, gave up a 2-run homer to C.J. Kafis in the bottom of the 8th. Royals got the leadoff man on at the top of the 9th and did not score, so they lost 3-2. They're now 4.5 back of the wild card, and it's getting really, really close to a dagger type situation.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I believe I looked this up 2 days ago, and I know the last 2 games they haven't gotten to this point. I believe it's 16 games in a row where the Royals have scored 4 or less, and 14 of those has been 3 or less.
It's painful.
So they've only scored at least 4
runs. And this isn't the first time an unbelievably bad stretch like that has happened. So I don't know I don't want to talk about the offseason yet, but we're getting really close to that point. I don't know what the move is in the offseason. The Royals do have a lot of good pitchers, especially you bring over Bergert and Kolek. Obviously, Noah Cameron has been better than anybody would have even hoped
Awesome. He's been
as a
awesome.
rookie. You've got Michael Lorenzen. Of course, you haven't had Reagans, but you know you have Reagans. You know you're going to have Chris Bubich. You have a lot of talented guys on that front. The question is, do you end up trying to deal one of those guys for some offense? Because you can't win if you don't score. And despite the fact that the pitching has been very good, stock has been down on the Royals offense pretty much all season.
And stock feels like it's going to be down on fall baseball, unfortunately.
Yeah, I
Counting
know.
them out
I
yet.
don't like it, but you're
I'm not-
right. You're not wrong. It's been trending the wrong way.
I'm not counting them out yet. Hey, I'll start off mine with stock is down on the 3-pointer and also on Steph Curry. I'll get to that, but so for the first time in Division 1 basketball history, this is per Ken Palm. The average 2-point field goal attempt was worth more than the average 3-point field goal attempt for the first time in Division 1 history. Do you know what that
Say that
mean-
again. More
so-
threes were shot than twos.
No. So the average 2-point field goal attempt was worth more than the average 3-point field goal attempt.
Okay.
So that means people are getting bad at
Yeah,
3-pointers.
Yeah, right.
So this is the Steph Curryification of college basketball because at some point it might have been around 2014 or somewhere around there. Steph Curry, obviously greatest 3-point shooter of all time, and they won a bunch of NBA
Whoa,
finals.
I thought
and-
Saquon Barkley was the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. No, am I wrong on that?
No,
You said that earlier this show.
No,
Yeah.
no.
This is usually where you say, "You said that, Sean. I heard you last week. I heard you. You said that. I heard you."
Saquon Barkley's a good 3-point shooter. I take him in pickup basketball.
Also,
I think
Adam
he'd be fun.
Sandler.
Adam Sandler, great.
Anyway,
pickup
continue.
player.
You were saying something intelligent. I shouldn't have.
Which is a rarity. But yeah, so basically, a lot of teams are taking 3-pointers, and this is something that we've seen. But it's more about the disparity between it, right? You're seeing the extinction of the long 2-pointer, of the mid-range shot, because as of right now, the average 2-point field goal attempt is worth more than the average 3-point attempt. So what that means is, yes, a lot of people are missing their 3-pointers, but also not a lot of people are taking those deep twos. A lot of people are shooting either under the basket or 3-pointers, right? There's a lot more layups being taken than those mid-range shots, and there's a lot more 3-pointers being taken than those mid-range shots. So the disparity, the polarization of where the shots are being taken on a Division I basketball court has never been further from each other. So I think this is just a very interesting stat to see. Also, it's kind of, at least analytics wise, kind of proving that, hey, you need to have sort of a diverse portfolio of shot makers on the court if you want to be impactful.
Yeah, which is how it should be, right? And
Yeah.
I know that this does not affect Steven Adams, but I liked the tweet from Shams Charania talking about how unsuccessful end of period heaves will now be recorded as a missed field goal attempt for the team, not the player. So they're no longer going to impact an individual player's percentages. This obviously due to players selfishly not wanting their field goal percentage
Right.
to go down by heaving a ball, which is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it is selfish. I mean, everybody wants to see a buzzer beater.
Right.
I don't care if it's 109-70. If there's 0.8 of a second left, shoot it up there. Don't just dribble it out. It doesn't matter.
Have they changed the rule about turnovers too? Like if you're dribbling the ball out?
Yes,
And
they did. I think a
did
couple years
change
ago.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
So I
guys
remember-
would pass it to the
like
teammates.
they'd be dribbling the ball out, and then they'd hand it to some rookie or something, and then the rookie
The
would
shot
get a turnover.
clock.
And like, oh,
Yeah,
awesome, man,
yeah.
whatever.
No, that's good stuff.
No, it's great. But I think this is a soft move by the NBA, getting rid of. It's still a 3-pointer. They're still trying to shoot a 3-point shot. Like you said, Steven Adams. This is going to change.
Former
the
Pitt
3-point
legend, by the way.
Yeah, this is going to change his 3-point percentage from 5.9% to 50% on the 3-point line, because every single time he'll get the ball and just throw it down there at the end of a quarter, and it obviously it doesn't go. He's made it
was like a
one
flick
or
of the
two,
wrist.
maybe.
It's like a
Yeah,
flick of the wrist.
Little flick of the wrist. This is soft by the NBA. I think this is a soft move by them to take this out.
People aren't shooting it otherwise.
No, I know. Well, that's the thing. Sure, I get it, right? But it's such a soft move. Just why do you care? And it kind of shows that NBA players care more about their individual stats than they do about actually winning the dang ball game.
Yeah, but college players did that too, like the dribbling, the shot clock, the turnover. Anyway, that's fair. But that is a good point about the diverse options offensively, because you go back to like the 2020 Kansas team had seriously everything. I mean, you look at Azubuike, he had the greatest field goal percentage in Big 12 history, 77% or whatever it was, because he would dunk everything.
History.
He would dunk everything. Is that right?
I think it was D1 history.
We'll have to double check that. Modern era, maybe?
Modern era, yeah.
I don't know. Anything before 1990 doesn't count, as you've said. So anyway,
game.
but yeah, then you had the three-pointers. People forget Isaiah Moss was on that team, but Ochai Agbaji obviously was on that team. Christian Brown was on that team. They weren't the starters like Dotson and Marcus Garrett, but yeah, that's important for sure. All right, we've got stock being down on qualifications. This is related to the AP poll after a upset took place at the Swamp.
That's right. By the way, shout out to our resident AP poll voter, Henry Greenstein, always getting it right.
Yes,
making sure that Tennessee gets out of there.
He covers KUSports.com, LJWorld.com.
I couldn't imagine the pressure of being an AP voter, because no matter what you do, you're going to have somebody coming after you.
It'd be kind of fun.
Henry had a bunch of Tennessee fans coming after him last week because he voted them out, because he's like, well, somebody has to get out because other teams have to get in, and Tennessee was at the bottom of that list. So it would be a lot of pressure, and I just wouldn't be able to handle all that hate. But stock is down on qualifications because there's an AP voter by the name of Haley Sawyer. She's a part of USC Hoops. Let's see, what is it? USCHoops.com. So she's an AP voter, and Florida lost to South Florida. Big upset, but also South Florida much better than anticipated, right? They beat two top 25 teams already this year in Boise State. Week 1, they absolutely killed Boise State, and then they go to the Swamp, beat up on the flagship state school, Florida. Very impressive. Now USF is currently ranked. Haley Sawyer, excuse me. Haley Sawyer, after Florida loses to USF, who was, not ranked at the time, she put Florida up 2 spots in her AP vote. This is what she had to say. She says, what can they do to get in the top 25? We can take into account the week-to-week performances for a team, but also take into account the overall season so far, what kind of culture that team has too. And there's tons of people who vote in the AP poll. It's not a perfect system, but at the end of the day, no matter who you pick, it does even out because there's so many people who vote. Like I said, it's really fun for discussion. It probably doesn't matter in the end, but I'm glad people are having a really good time with it. Haley, I'm not having a good time with this. You need to take this job seriously, right? We know an AP voter who takes it very seriously. Henry takes everything that he does seriously. Even though he wears his puka shell necklaces and his flip-flops and rides on his longboard and has his frosted tips, he still takes the AP vote very seriously. Haley Sawyer does not.
Here's a question.
She's basically saying, like, hey, even though I did this, who cares? Because the other AP voters, they're going to get it right, even if I get it wrong. You're saying that you got it wrong.
Did you know? It doesn't matter. Did you know Haley Sawyer's name before this happened?
What was it?
I'm saying, did you know her name? Her name was still Haley Sawyer, but.
Oh, okay.
Had you heard of her? Okay.
No, guys, I thought you meant. Never mind. No, I didn't know who she was.
Yes. Okay. Is there something to that? That's what I'm saying. Like, who knows? I don't think I'm not against. And yeah, I mean, everybody can put whoever they want in their top 25, but she's getting like interviews and national people now know who she is. She's getting this attention because she clearly omitted USF after 2 top 25 wins and then bumped Florida up 2 spots. People are going to see that. And now all of a sudden they're going to be knocking on her door. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, but it is funny how she says at the end, I'm glad people are having a really good time with it. It's like, yeah, because she's getting some attention.
Oh, but there's no SEC media bias. It's happening in front of your face. They're omitting Group of 5 schools who beat SEC schools, and there's no repercussions for it.
Stock's
Take
down.
Some pride in your job, Haley.
Stock is down on the Miami Dolphins. Let's talk about Tyreek Hill for a second. He said that it was a test to their manhood, I think is how he put it, when they got a drubbing handed to them by Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts 33-8. A lot of times as seasons go on, college sports, professional sports, we've heard about this, the 2008 Kansas team meeting over at Henry T is, hey, you know what? It's time to put our foot down. We're going to lock the coaches out, and we are going to have a players only meeting, and
That's
we're
right.
going to look each other in the eye, and we're going to say, hey, this is how we're going to get this done. It's been 80% of the season is in the past, and we got to focus on the postseason and how we play our best ball. And now we're going to have a players only meeting. So stocks up on players only meetings because the Dolphins are already doing one.
That's right. They're 0-1 and already having a players only meeting.
That is ultimate desperation.
One of the
Daniel Jones effect.
The Daniel Jones effect. One of the greatest quotes that I've heard is from J.J. Watt, but also Andrew Whitworth also said this last week.
Also Michael Scott.
Yes, but J.J. Watt basically said, look, if you ever get to a point in the season where you're having players only meetings, start booking your vacations for January because it's over. And if you're 0-1 already having a players only meeting when you're the Miami Dolphins, look, here's the thing. Tua is a decent quarterback, right? Tyreek still got some juice left in him. I think they have an okay squad, and they just got absolutely killed by the Indianapolis Colts, who has Daniel Jones, who was essentially sent off into oblivion of being a backup quarterback. Wound up winning the job because Anthony Richardson sucks, and they put a whomping on the Miami Dolphins, and the Miami Dolphins are like, okay, well, now we have got to figure something out. They're 0-1 right now, and they're already at this point. I'm kind of with J.J. Watt. Clear. I mean, their calendar is going to be clear in January. Like they're not going to be playing football, which is good for the Miami Dolphins because they're not good in cold weather games.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man, that was as cold of a game as it got a couple years ago at Arrowhead. That is a real bummer. You don't want those players only meetings this early in the season. And yeah, I mean, you only slept 3 hours last night, Dan. You slept better than Mike McDaniel.
I certainly did.
That is not looking good for him.
Yes.
I'll tell you that much. What else we got here?
Oh, hey, stocks up on Smokey the Bear. So NC State Wake Forest played yesterday, Thursday Night Football.
Fun game.
So much fun. Shout out to Wake Forest, man.
They end up winning?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
they look all right. But
had a little college football and a little NFL.
Here's the thing, though. If you watch that game, you might have noticed the camera looked a little hazy, and it's not the camera playing tricks on your eyeballs. Apparently, there was a food truck parked outside of the stadium that caught on fire and essentially smoked out the entire stadium. It was so bad. You saw a video of the guy in there with a fire extinguisher trying to put out these flames. The flames got so bad that it started engulfing the entire stadium, and everybody basically like had to look through this sea of smoke and fog trying to see what the hell is even going on out there on the field.
Was it a taco shop or
it looked like a taco shop.
We need to know which food truck it is.
Yeah, I want to know.
And is everybody okay?
I believe everybody is okay. That's why we're talking about it right now.
Wake Forest lost, by the way.
Oh, they did lose. Yeah, I was watching the Packers Commanders. What do you want me to do? I did hear the Wake Forest look good. I saw some clips. That's why I thought I saw that. But yeah, I mean, I want to know what kind of food that was, because it like if it's tacos, like still burnt meat can still smell really good, but if it's
brisket, then you're in the money zone.
Man, how great would that be?
Oh, that would be great.
I don't know what kind of food it necessarily was, but I love college football for that reason, because only weird stuff ever happens like this in college football games. This has MAC written all over it, and it was an ACC game.
You were totally right. This is like Tuesday night MAC.
You would see this in a MAC game. The fact that this has happened at an ACC game is really kind of surprising. But I'm glad that this happened. It was fun. Everybody's okay. Obviously, not happy for the restaurant, the truck owner. That kind of sucks for him. But got a little bit of publicity, so that's nice. But yeah, still kind of wild that it just basically smoked everybody out. Everybody's like, what the heck is going on?
He did get some publicity, but at the same time, we still don't know who it is.
No, we don't know who it is.
So that's kind of a lose-lose for him. But yeah,
you.
Hopefully everybody's okay on that front. All right, we got one more on sports stock market before we get to our game pick segments. Stocks up on being a part of a team. Raiders. Tell us about Lonnie Johnson.
Lonnie Johnson. So he got put on the IR. But shout out to Lonnie Johnson, man. You don't see this a lot in the NFL. I think this is important. So Lonnie Johnson, he is on the IR, wasn't able to travel with the team. So he was watching the Raiders-Patriots game from his house in his full uniform. sitting on his couch. I love to see that. That is one of my favorite things I think I've seen ever. He had his helmet and his shoulder pads and his jersey on. He had a boot on, watching the game. That is dedication, my friends. That is a guy who really loves his team. You don't ever see that in the NFL. That might be something you see maybe at a college game, but doing that in the NFL, that just goes to show you, man. Maybe the Raiders, maybe they got something cooking over there.
I
with Pete
know.
Carroll.
I wish we had the visual to show you, but it is a pretty cool. Hey, I'm ready to go, Coach.
It's
I'm ready
awesome.
to go. But who was the player? Was it Caleb Williams who literally wore his own jersey into the game as like his pregame outfit? Was it Caleb
I think
Williams?
so.
I got to
That
figure out. I
sounds
know that he was wearing an Urlacher jersey not that long ago,
Yeah,
but
that
it's so
sounds right.
funny wearing your own jersey.
Yeah.
I mean, what a flex.
Do you think he bought it? Do you think he bought his own
He
jersey
went
off
to the
of like the website?
went to the pro shop and
Yeah. Or
bought
do you think he
a
probably just
replica
went to the
for
equipment manager's like, can I borrow one of these?
$59 replica.
Did you see his undershirt?
Yeah, the gray one.
Horrible.
It's a bad look.
What are you doing? It's a
it's
horrible
a bad
look.
Yeah.
No, you
Swag,
can't.
swag's not good.
Yeah, not
You know
good.
who's got some swagger though? Jalen Hurts. But you can't spell Jalen without the L. He's going to take that L tomorrow. That's our sports stock market for today. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We got game picks segments to close out Rock Chalk Sports today. We're doing NFL game picks. Dan's going to give some college football top 25 and Big 12 game picks as well. All that after this. Thanks for watching on KansasNation.com.
Hey, this is
John Kellerman, Dan Courtwright, back here live in the Kansas Nation studios for Rock Chalk Sports. Big thanks to East and John running the production today as well. Also want to shout out Miles Schneider and Crown Automotive for their partnership. Really appreciate that partnership and helping get this thing going. Excited to be a part of this on KansasNation.com. The Daily Show, we're going to have a multitude of weekly shows as well, so find us on all of your socials. All right, time for NFL game picks. Let's get into it. Sunday's slate, no game tonight, no game tomorrow for NFL. That was kind of a special treat we had last week with the Friday night game, Chiefs-Chargers, but we'll go through the Sunday slate. We're going to start in the Meadowlands.
Yes.
New York Football Jets hosting the Bills. That should be a fun one. Bills are going to have a short week after this as they take on the Dolphins next week on Thursday Night Football, but the Jets at home are getting 6.5, over under 46.5.
So the Jets are getting 6.5. I understand it's at the Meadowlands, but also Josh Allen looks good. I thought that coming off of that performance that he had against the Ravens, I thought was really exceptional. So it's hard because 6.5 is such a big line in the NFL, but I just don't see a way that that Fields keeps up with them, right? I mean, there's just no chance. So give me the Bills minus 6.5. The public loves them too. It's at minus 115 right now, where the Jets are at minus 105 on the spread. Over under is 56.5. That's pretty even. 46.5. Excuse me. Give me the under in that game. I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring game. I think that Josh Allen and company are going to get it done relatively early and maintain the possession. It's going to be a lot of running out the clock.
I like the over. I like the over 46.5.
Really? Okay.
You know, I'm a big Justin Fields guy, and I think the Bills found something. They're going to go up and down, and the Jets defensively,
do you think
after what I just saw against the Steelers, I don't think they're going to be stopping the Bills very often.
I have a question. Do you think Justin Fields is the next Baker Mayfield in a sense of being
the Bears never should have given up on him, and we talked about that. They
Yeah,
never should have given up
okay.
on him. We'll see what comes
I'm
with
there.
Caleb
I'm with
Williams,
you.
but I've always been a Fields guy. That was so silly. He was the number 2 overall pick, and they just tossed him. They think
Same
Williams
with
is going to
Mitch
be this
Trubisky,
all-world
though.
talent.
Mitch Trubisky was also the number 2 overall pick.
Let's head to the Star. Cowboys minus 4.5 hosting the Giants. Over under 44.5. Giants scored just 6 in week 1.
I like the Cowboys in this game. They looked really good against the Philadelphia Eagles. I thought Dak really impressed me. I think CeeDee Lamb's kind of got a chip on his shoulder after that missed catch at the end of the game against Philadelphia. I'm not a Russ believer at this point. I don't think that he's a very good quarterback, I guess. I don't know. I ever since he's sort of left the Seahawks, he's kind of been weird and kind of in quarterback purgatory. I like the Cowboys in this one. I also like the over 44.5. I think this one's going to be high scoring as well. Give me the Cowboys at minus 4.5. Public loves them at minus 118.
I like the minus 4.5 for the Cowboys, but so much that I'm wondering if it's a trap line. I mean, Cowboys Giants games sometimes get weird, but it seems
That's
like the
true.
Cowboys
Those
should
divisional
cover the
rival games are
spread.
weird.
I'll take the -4.5, and then I'll complain about it on Monday when the Giants somehow cover that number. Big spread going down in the land of softshell crab. Ravens -11.5 hosting your boys, the Cleveland Browns, over under 45.5.
11.5 is just way too big of a line for me,
Wow.
especially in the NFL. Look, hey, Joe Flacco, he's
Revenge game.
it is a Joe Flacco revenge game. That is going to be the biggest storyline of this game. Give me the Browns plus 11.5. That's just way too big of a line for me. I think this is going to be relatively close. I think it's going to go under as well. So does the public 45.5. I think the Browns defense, I think, is really stout. I think the Ravens defense is really stout. I don't think it's going to be a lot of scoring in this game.
I think I'm going to take the Browns too, plus 11.5. That is such a big line when it comes to NFL, like you said, and I think it's a little bit disrespectful. The Browns had the Bengals. That being said, they are still the Browns, so
Right.
We'll see what happens on that front. Bengals -3.5 hosting the Jags, over under 49.5.
You're going to think I'm crazy for this. I actually have a prop bet, and it is Travis Hunter anytime touchdown. I think he's going to score in this game. First touchdown of his NFL career. He still is kind of working in a little bit. I believe he had 12 snaps on defense in that first game for the Jaguars. He might get a little bit more, but I think that he's still kind of maintaining his offense right now. I think he's going to get in the end zone. That's my prop bet for this game. I only have a couple of prop bets that I really like. I think they're going to try to get Travis Hunter in the end zone just to try to give him a little bit of momentum, to try to be a really big impact player for the Jags. I think I like the over in this game as well. 49.5. Bengals defense, horrible. So I think that Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. are going to have big time games. I like the Bengals in this game. I'm going to take a money line. I don't know if they cover.
Man, you're all over this one.
I'm not going to touch the line. 3.5 is really close. I'm not going to touch it. I think the Bengals come out winning at -180.
Man, that's the game you're going to be locked into on Sunday. You're all over that one. I like the over 49.5 as well. I don't trust either of these defenses, and yeah, that 3.5 line scares me. Lions at home after a really disappointing effort at Lambeau Field, -6.5 hosting the Bears, over under 46.5.
Yeah, talk about a chip on their shoulder, right? I mean, the Detroit Lions, everybody's saying that their Super Bowl window has essentially closed, and if anybody has something to say about that, it's probably going to be Dan Campbell. So I think the Lions are going to absolutely wipe the floor. The public really likes the Bears in this one. They're at -112 at +6.5. Give me the Lions. I think the Lions are going to beat them by more than a touchdown.
I think the Lions have a big bounce back. They cover the 6.5 as well. Titans hosting the Rams. Tennessee rookie quarterback. They're getting 5.5 at home. Over under 41.5.
Yeah, Cam Ward did not have a great game, but that's just because his offensive line was not able to do anything. And Calvin Ridley had like 4 or 5 drops in that first game for the Titans. I mean, it was just hard to watch because Cam Ward did everything right. And it just sucks to be a rookie quarterback being put into that situation. He had like 2 fantasy points the entire game just because nobody was catching the ball. I know this because Cam Ward is on my fantasy team. I know everyone cares about my fantasy team. I still am not a Brian Callahan believer. I think Cam Ward comes back, though. I like the Titans to cover in this one at +5.5. I still think the Rams win. It's going to be close.
I like the Titans to cover as well, +5.5. I think there's a chance they win the game. You're only going to win so many if you're the Titans this year. I think a home tilt against the Rams is an option for that to happen. We'll go pretty quick here on the rest of these. Saints at home +3, hosting the Niners, over under 40.5. Brock Purdy out.
Sean, what did I tell you week 1 of the NFL season?
Fade the Saints. You're doing
the
it.
Saints. I'm fading the Saints. Give me the 49ers -3.
All right, I'm going to avoid that game. Steelers -3 at home, hosting the Seahawks in a Russell Wilson revenge. No, my over under is 39.5. Steelers and Seahawks.
Russell Wilson revenge game, and he's not going to be
Not even playing in it. Yeah.
The Russell Wilson Bowl, excluding Russell Wilson. Give me the Seahawks +3. I like the Seahawks. Aaron Rodgers did look good. I think his age is going to catch up to him on week 2. So give me Sam Darnold and company. I like the Seahawks in this one.
And then he might be back to being young in week 3. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I like the Seahawks +3 as well. I don't trust Rodgers, even though he balled out the first time. Dolphins at home -1.5, over under 43.5 as they host the Patriots.
Dolphins are in Saints territory right now. They're having players only meetings. New England Patriots, they did wind up losing to the Raiders. I'm a Drake May believer. Give me New England Patriots money line +105.
I like the over 43.5. I think that game is a 30-something to 20-something there in South Beach. Cardinals -6.5, hosting the Panthers, over under 44.5.
I kind of like the Panthers at covering this game. I'm not a believer in what they're doing out there in Arizona. Give me the Panthers to cover. Arizona might still win this ball game, but I think in terms of the line, give me the Panthers.
Colts at home +1.5 hosting the Broncos, over under 43.5.
Broncos defense looks incredible. I mean, we saw that in the game against the Titans, although
was
it
the
was the
Titans.
Titans. I understand. It's kind of like saying, okay, you looked good against Wagner. It's like, well, it was Wagner. You know what I mean? I don't want to, I hate
Titans
to
and
compare
Wagner.
the two. Give me the Broncos in this one. Give me the under. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. Under 43.5 at -112.
I'm going to take the money line Broncos at -120. You don't lay that 1.5, Dan. You take the money line.
You take
No. That's when you're getting the +1.5.
So you're just taking the money line. Okay, I see.
Because you don't want to lay the 1.5. You don't want them to win 24-23. Then you're just mad. No. Money line -120. All right, 2 more to go. We'll go to Sunday Night Football before we swing back to the Chiefs. Vikings -3.5 hosting the Falcons. Sunday Night Football, over under 44.5 in a Kirk Cousins revenge game.
Yeah. For Cousins' revenge game. I like the Vikings here. I like JJ, man. I like JJ McCarthy. Both JJs, I guess. Justin Jefferson and JJ McCarthy.
And Aaron Jones, AJ.
AJ, that's true. Yeah. I like the over in this game. I think that's the safest bet to go here, 44.5. I like both offenses. I think Michael Penix Jr. is a really good quarterback. Drake London is questionable. He's day-to-day right now. I think Drake London is going to wind up playing, so I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Give me the Vikings money line 175. I just don't like the 3.5 line. It's going to be a close game.
This one looks like a fun one. Give me the over 44.5. Vikings hosting the Falcons on Sunday night. All right, back to the Chiefs game. Arrowhead Chiefs are +1.5 at home. Over under is 46.5.
I'm not going to touch the line. I know everyone wants me to pick the Chiefs. Not going to touch the line. Give me the under 46.5. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Defensive juggernaut, defensive chess match.
Let's hope that Chiefs money line +105 hits. It's a rarity that they're underdogs at home. We're talking top 25 and Big 12 college football game picks after this. KansasNation.com.
This is Daniel Highshaw, and you're watching KansasNation.com.
Welcome back to KansasNation.com. Going to go through some top 25 and Big 12 game picks for this upcoming weekend. But first, an update on Kansas volleyball. They're in action right now against Green Bay, but the number 17 ranked Jayhawks had their first sweep of the season yesterday that we wanted to bring up. They defeated Florida Gulf Coast in straight sets. Grace Nelson and Ryan Swanson both had double-digit kills, and Matt Ulmer really impressed with the team as a whole and the complete performance that KU volleyball put together. So yeah, they're continuing their run at the Coyote Invitational right now against Green Bay. Coyote, right? Not Coyote. I remember once South Dakota basketball came into town, and they were unhappy about the Coyote reference, the Coyotes. So
it's like UCF and the Golden Knights thing.
Exactly right. So good on KU volleyball, and of course we'll keep you updated on how they do the rest of this weekend on Monday's show. Let's take a look at 3 games in the top 25 for game picks before we get into the Big 12. Number 6, Georgia, Dan, at number 15, Tennessee. Georgia is -4 on the road. Over under is 50.5.
I think Tennessee proves Henry Greenstein wrong. Give me Tennessee to cover that spread. Just because it's at Tennessee, old Rocky Top, it's a hard place to play. I do like Georgia in this game, but I think it's going to be a little close. Give me Tennessee to cover, Georgia win.
How about South Florida here? They're going to be in the national spotlight again, ranked number 18 in the country, going to South Beach to take on the U. 17.5-point underdogs are the Bulls, headed to Miami. Over-under is 55.5.
Look, man, can USF keep this up, right? They've already beaten 2 top 25 teams already, one of them being Florida, the flagship in the state of Florida. Now, I understand that Miami does have the new quarterback, Haley Cavender's ex-boyfriend.
Yes.
So that's how I will always refer to him.
Is it Haley or Hannah? I don't.
One of the Cavender twins, I know. So I don't know. I think USF might cover this game. Do they win? I don't want to say that they win.
17.5-point dogs.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. They probably cover. They probably do cover. Do they win? I want to say yes.
That would be a big
USF money line.
That'd be a big upset. That'd be a big upset. Classic NBC affair at 6:30 tomorrow. Number 16 Texas A&M heading to South Bend to battle the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame's -6.5. Over under 50.5.
I like Notre Dame here. I think I do like Notre Dame here. I do not believe in Texas A&M whatsoever. Give me Notre Dame.
All right, let's move on to the Big 12 slate. There's going to be some blowouts. There are some games that aren't even listed as having open lines right now, but let's start in the desert. Arizona State hosting Texas State. State is a sneaky good group of 5 team. Minus 17.5, though, are the Sun Devils coming after a loss, and the over-under is 16.5.
Yeah, I mean, knowing what I know about Kenny Dillingham and Sam Levitt, I believe that they're going to have a chip on their shoulder, obviously losing to Mississippi State. So give me Arizona State in this one. I understand Texas State is a sneaky good team, but there's just no way that Arizona State doesn't come out firing in this one. 17.5 is a big spread. Give me Arizona State.
Houston, the Fighting Willie Fritzes, hosting Colorado. Houston is minus 4.5, over under 44.5. Colorado did just beat the Blue Hens last week.
They did just beat the Blue Hens, and Ryan Staub apparently appearing kind of out of nowhere, right? They have 2 really solid quarterbacks at Colorado, and Caden Salter, as well as Juju Lewis. And Ryan Staub basically, Deion Sanders said, hey, he's the starting quarterback until he loses the job. Is this going to be the game where he loses the job, or does he continue to step up to the plate? I think that he absolutely does. Give me Colorado here. Money line plus 180.
K-State, Arizona. ASU or KSU, 1.5 point favorites depending on where you look. Over under is 54.5. Of course, a rematch of last year.
I'm a no fafita believer, right? I'm absolutely a no fafita believer. Give me Arizona in this game let's see. So Arizona's plus 1.5.
So if they're plus 1.5, yes.
I take the point. Give me Arizona. I'm taking the point. I like them here. K-State, dumpster fire. Just lost to Army. Almost lost to the second best team in North Dakota, which is not saying much.
Real quick. Iowa State against the Arkansas State University. Iowa State minus 21.5, over under 56.5.
Last time they played, it was at Jack Trice Stadium, 52-7. I do not like Arkansas State in this game. Give me Iowa State minus 21. I understand it is in Arkansas, but still like Iowa State in this one.
Texas Tech minus 23.5. Will they be tested against Oregon State? Over under 62.5.
They're not going to be tested. Texas Tech's the real deal. I'm actually buying into them quite a bit. Give me them to cover. Minus 23.5 is such a big line, but I still think Texas Tech wins this by 4 touchdowns.
Backyard brawl, West Virginia's game before they head to the booth. Hit is minus 7.5 in Morgantown, over under 55.5.
I like the under in this game. I'm not going to touch the line. Rivalry games can get weird, but I think that the under is going to hit just because of the fact that West Virginia is a little bit depleted. I like their defense, and I like Pitt's defense as well.
We got to end with the marquee matchup of the weekend, Utah and Wyoming. The Utes are minus 23.5, over under 46.5.
Yeah, this isn't Josh Allen's Wyoming team, man. Utah is the real deal, right? They put a whomping on UCLA. They're going to put a whomping on Wyoming. Minus 23.5. Public loves them too. They're at minus 115. And give me the over in this game. I think Utah puts up 40 points on their own.
Game picks. I'm sure Dan will be 100% correct on those. For Easton John running the production today, and for Dan Courtwright, I'm Sean Kellerman saying thanks for joining us. We'll catch you Monday. Rock Chalk Sports, KansasNation.com.